7 new cases of COVID-19 in Victoria, 3 Melbourne aged care staff and 1 resident that we know testing positive for the virus. For more on this, from Melbourne, I'm joined by host of the Friday Showdown here on Sky News, Rita Panahi, and also from Melbourne, Executive Director of the Institute of Public Affairs, John Roskam. Rita, we've learned that federal-run aged care facilities are allowing, I cannot believe this, casual health workers to work across multiple sites. I thought all of this was fixed.
Well, this seems just madness. We know this is the most vulnerable section of the community. That's where the majority of the deaths were. You would think every precaution would be taken, there would be best practice, but it's not happening. And it's just shocking, you know, for Victorians in particular who have just had the most appalling time of it, 4 lockdowns, and now they're saying the worst is yet to come, that things are going to get worse before they get better. And I know people are just terrified that this lockdown is going to be extended because this government cannot get its act together.
Just on that chat I had a little bit earlier, John, about Josh Frydenberg holding firm, saying federal taxpayers are not going to mop up the mess in Victoria. Will he hold the line, do you think?
Well, Peter, I think he has to. Victorians succumbed to the 4 lockdowns we've been in, partly because the federal government has been bailing out the failures of state governments, and particularly the Victorian government. I think if Josh Frydenberg was to back down, there would be an uproar from the base of the Liberal Party. There'd be an uproar from the party room, from business. I can't see Josh Frydenberg contemplating it. He's been good on this, and he should push back. Morrison should push back and say, on behalf of all Australians, let Victorians out. This can't continue.
Yeah. I want to go back to this story, pretty much pushing out of the decision from the US President, Rita, about, you know, investigations into the origins of COVID. The source of the pandemic, going back to Wuhan, to the lab, fascinating stuff. Do you think we'll get the answers? And is the egg on a lot of people's faces? Because there were statements made last year and Facebook banned a whole lot of people for saying that there has to be a proper investigation. Do you think they'll ever get an apology?
Well, it's been absolutely shocking to see people take a political position, saying scientists take a political position. As soon as Donald Trump came out and said that this was a suspicion that they had, that this leaked out of the lab, not from the wet market, it seemed like so many scientists were determined to mock that and to say it was debunked, it was a nonsense, it wasn't possible, when of course it was always a possibility. This week or last week, the White House actually said they haven't ruled out that this was a deliberate leak, which is an entirely another level of suspicion now. Whether we'll ever get to the bottom of it, Peter, I genuinely don't know. China's had ample time to cover this up, ample time to get rid of any evidence. So that's going to be, I think, my fear that that we're never going to get to the bottom of this, because who's going to come forward? What whistleblower is going to jeopardise their life and come forward and tell us what really happened?
Well, let's go to carbon emissions, John. They've fallen to their lowest level on record following, you know, basically lockdown life. These are Commonwealth figures, and they show that emissions tumbled 0.6% in the 3 months to December, and a total of 5% across 2020, all up. Now, of course, this just tells you, if you want really low emissions, get used to this life, Australia. We'll basically have to live, you know, doing less, not more, if we want to get to those sort of targets they're talking about for 2050, John.
Peter, that's right. And we should get used to not eating meat. We should get used to not driving cars. But the whole climate change discussion has been related to what Rita just said. And I assume her tongue was firmly in her cheek when she said, gosh, scientists being political. And that's exactly the same with corona, with climate change. Many of us would have hoped that one of the few good things to have come out of this would have been Scott Morrison saying we need reliable, secure energy. Australia is doing more than its fair share to reduce emissions. The rest of the world can catch up to Australia, and there's no way he's going to net zero because it costs too many jobs. And we hope he still does that.
Rita Panahi, John Roscombe, thank you for your time. And Rita, I did notice that little guest on your desk there a little earlier on. You cheeky thing. That lovely little Dachshund dog.
I tried to put you off your game by having your puppy here, but it didn't work. You were just a pro.
Didn't work.
Next week.